Starting, all attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, for those of you who've joined in early, the session is about to begin in a few minutes. You can make yourself comfortable. Before we get into the session, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a quick audio and video check. If you can hear my audio loud and clear, and if you can see my screen clearly as well, a quick little favor. All you got to do is just drop me a message on the chat right now, and we will be starting off in a few minutes. A quick sound check and a video check. Wonderful. Thank you so much for the confirmation, guys. Yes, we are set. We'll start off in a few minutes. Thank you. Hi, a very good afternoon once again. Thank you for having taken the time to have joined me in today's workshop. This is Jay, product expert from the AD Solutions team of Manage Engine. So, first things first, before we get into today's workshop, let me get the basics right. So, through this 5-day workshop series, for those of you who want, any help, feel free to make use of the chat window then and there, shoot your questions right at me, and I take your questions then and there. All right. If in case we miss out on one or two questions, we'd have a quick Q&A session towards the end of the workshop. All right. For those of you who want a copy of the presentation, what you can do is again drop me a message on the chat towards the end with your email address, and I'd have the workshop video and the presentation deck emailed. I hope all of you who asked for the video of yesterday's workshop have received the video, and I hope that it is useful as well. So just like that, in case you have any other queries coming up, make use of the chat. So that's your touch point. All right. So you can always do that. For those of you who want to try out the product as I demonstrate, if you do not have a local instance set up in your environment, what you can do is you can quickly get into demo.admanagerplus.com. So the URL is going to be demo.admanagerplus.com. So this is the URL, and this specific instance is a cloud instance that we have hosted for the benefit of those who do not have the product at this point in time. You can always choose to log in as the administrator, check out all the administrative features, and also at a point in time, if you want to see how the dashboard looks for the technicians, you can try the technician view. All right, so that's pretty much about the basics or the ground rules for today's workshop. And yes, today is the second day in the 5-day workshop series for ADManager Plus. All right, so yesterday we had discussed the first step towards user lifecycle management. We were talking about how user onboarding can be completely simplified and at the same time streamlined with ADManager Plus. We got introduced to user creation templates. We saw how we could create templates pertaining to specific departments, templates pertaining to specific roles, and have users onboarded not just in single, but then in bulk, and that too for different departments at the same time. So all of that was possible because templates were in place. All of that was possible because we had integrated it with Office 365 and Google Apps, and Exchange mailboxes were created simultaneously. So we were done with the first step, which is having users provisioned into your environment. What's the next obvious step? What's the next most important step? Managing those users. So we'll be talking about the second and third phases of the user lifecycle, which is user modification and user deprovisioning. But as a matter of fact, deprovisioning is more like the end of the user's life cycle. So we'll be taking a look at that as well. So the first 2 days is about user management, which includes modification and deprovisioning as well. So today we'll be using ADManager Plus to not just take care of Active Directory related deprovisioning or modification. We'll also be talking about a bit on Office 365 license management and Exchange mailbox management as well. So it's a holistic approach that we're taking, not just the you know the Active Directory front, but also the Office 365 and Exchange mailbox front. So through the next 3 days, which is tomorrow and 2 days in the next week, we'll be talking about Active Directory reporting. We'll also be talking about something very nifty and useful, which is custom reporting, where you'd get the provision to create your very own reports. You can tailor make your own reports. You can specify the attributes that have to be a part of a specific report, your specific use case, and we have a report for you. All right. So that's about the next a third day workshop, which is tomorrow. Later next week, we'll be talking about Active Directory delegation and workflow. So from an administrative level, how do you delegate work to your help desk technicians? How do you assign them roles? We'll be talking about that. We'll also be looking into workflow, taking inspiration from the IT services management or your IT help desk tools. We've incorporated workflow in our product where requests can be made by end users and technicians for Active Directory changes, and administrators and corresponding technicians with the necessary rights can perform AD actions. So that'll be the fourth day, and the final day we'll be talking about automating all those critical AD routines. So that pretty much sums up what we'd be discussing through the week. And in today's session, like I told you, we'll be talking about the first phase. We've done talking about the first phase. We'll be talking about the second and third phase of user lifecycle management, which is modification and deprovisioning. All right, so let me quickly get into my console and walk you through as to how this workshop is going to go forward. All right, so it's switching back to my console. Let me go on and quickly share the demo instance to you on the chat right now. This is going to be the URL just in case you want to try out the features, right? So getting to my console. So the first day we were talking about Active Directory management. We were talking about the stage where we had user provisioning done, which is the user onboarding done. So today we'll be talking about the next two phases, which is going to be a part of the modification templates. So yesterday's fundamental requirement was user creation template. So in today's session, we'll be talking about modification templates. Templates again are going to be the base where you get to configure all those important Active Directory attributes. So you could have an instance or a case where a user is getting moved from one department to another department. If that is the case, if that is your requirement, you can have the product work as per your requirement. You can have the product have templates that are pertaining to that specific department and modify users on the go. All right. So what more are we going to see right now? So this will pretty much be the agenda for the day. We'll be talking about centralized management of Active Directory users and their licenses. That was the product that I showed you a while back. We'll be talking about using the product to our advantage to alter users' group membership. All right, and this is going to be a streamlined approach that we'll be taking. We'll be discussing more on how to act when a file server gets decommissioned. So what would you want to do when a file server gets decommissioned? You'd want to move your profile path and your home folder correspondingly. We'll be taking a look at that. And then the last phase, which is deprovisioning, we'll also be taking a look at how a stepwise or a three-phase deprovisioning can happen, which is the ideal scenario in many organizations. All right, we'll be talking about that. And just in case if something goes wrong, just in case there's some accidental deletion that's happening in your environment, you definitely want to restore those deleted users. In that case, again, we're going to help you out to restore those Active Directory objects just the way they were before they were deleted. All right, that is on the Active Directory level. And then when it comes to Exchange management, we'll see how to do a bulk migration or a bulk upgrade to a different Exchange server, how to move the mailboxes. We'll be talking about that. And then also a bit on the archival of Exchange mailboxes. And finally, from an ROI point of view, why do I say ROI? So Office 365 licenses don't come for free. They are kind of expensive. If that's the case that we're talking about, then we definitely want the product to help you out with the flow of getting your Office 365 licenses, not just assigned, but also at the same time managed. So we'll be talking about how to find out users, or how to find out the licenses that are assigned to specific users and have them removed when they become inactive in the environment. So that's something that we'll be doing today. So without any delay, let me get into the product and walk you through to all these agenda or all these tasks that we'll be taking forward. All right. So yes, so the first session was on user creation templates, single user creation and bulk user creation. For those who were not a part of yesterday's session or missed out yesterday's session, just drop me a message right now. I'll have your email ID noted and I'll send across the relevant video and the slide deck. All right. So today we'll start off with modification templates. So a quick question: how did user creation templates work, or what's the importance of user creation template? Yes, you almost got it right. So user creation templates will have all those fundamental attributes predefined, will have all those attributes specific to a scenario listed, just like the user creation templates. The modification templates are going to have attributes pertaining to the group, attributes pertaining to the department, all of that listed in place by you beforehand, just so that everything is organized and streamlined. So when you start with the installation, by default there are certain modification templates that come with the product, the ones that are listed right here. So they are basically just the templates for your reference. So what you can always do is you can quickly start with your very own template. So let's assume that we have a requirement where a user gets moved from, say, the marketing department to the sales department. So that's your use case. The layout view is something that you're already very familiar with. It's similar to the layout of the user creation templates, the modification templates. So I can go on and create a new modification templates for those employees who are getting moved into the sales department. So it's going to be the sales template, right? Sales template. I'm going to say users being moved into the sales department. So that's the case. So what do I need? I'd be needing to specify certain attributes corresponding to the sales department. So that would be my requirement right here. So in this layout view, what do I have right here? So the layout view basically composes all those important Active Directory attributes, and it's got all of them listed in such a way that it's easy to understand. So instead of going tab after tab and configuring all those attributes, we've got it listed in such a way that it's straightforward. So here for the user modification, the scenario is sales. So what do I want? I'd want the description to say something pertaining to sales. So I'm going to say sales department, all right, or sales executive. That's going to be my case. That's the first thing that I want to do. And then I'll want to go on and select a container that's pertaining to the sales department. All right. So here from the list, I can go on and select one of those container that's pertaining to the sales department. I can do that. So here by default, the users is selected. Let's assume that this were for the sales department. All right. You can go on and you have the provision to select the corresponding container in the first go. You can proceed further to the other tabs that are available and also make corresponding edits. So what do I mean when I say edits corresponding to the template? So here, since it's for the sales department, I can pick and choose those groups that would relate to the sales department the best. I can quickly say add group. And from the list of groups that are available, I can go on and select the groups that are pertaining to the sales department, which in turn simplifies my task. All right, so let's assume that these are sales related groups, a few of them right here. So I'm going to pick, right, looking up for certain groups. Okay, let's assume that these are sales related groups. I can say okay, and that gives me a template where I'm getting the provision to pre-specify attributes pertaining to that template, and then I can get into the next tab, which is the contact tab, and again specify details pertaining to sales department. I can say sales, and I can also have the provision to pick a user who could be the manager for this specific account. I can say the manager is going to be Ashik right here and say okay. All right, from the exchange tab, most of the times it is not a requirement because exchange is already configured for a user and you'd not ideally want to modify that. If that is the case, you can just skip this tab and go to the next one and see what more can be done. So custom attributes again can be incorporated when you're doing a modification. You can create your very own custom attribute with the product, or you can add an additional attribute to an existing extended schema, or also, as a matter of fact, run a custom script when need arises. So if there's a change that's happening and an additional account has to be created, say for example in a third party application for your sales department, you'd want to do that, you can have your custom script put right here and have this very template saved. All right, does this really stop right here? No, not really. So just in case you want to copy the attributes of an existing user to simplify the whole process, just so that you get a head start on user creation or user modification templates, you already have a user who's a part of the sales department. You just want to copy the user's attribute. You can always do that. You can say copy user's attribute. From the list of users who are available, you can choose to select that specific user for whose you want to copy the attribute into the template. Say select, and from the list that comes up, you can very well go granular and say what are the attributes that you'd want to copy. If it's going to be the description, which is common to the entire department, you can do that. For the other attributes that are common, you can again go and make use of that. All right. So yes, we've got attributes pertaining to the account that can be copied. So here you can copy something that's common, which is the member of or the group membership. That can be done. From the contact, you'd not want to do that. You can uncheck that and say okay. So only all those basic attributes which are common to the template that you're creating from this reference point, which is a specific user, is copied right here. You can do that, all right, and say apply. So that way you're getting a head start on the user modification template here. So this is one way of doing it. In fact, this is more like a best practice or the easier approach than creating a modification template from the start. You can refer an existing user and have the user's attributes populated into the template. All right. The next thing that you'd want to do is check if you can edit this layout, which again is going to be possible. So just like the creation templates, all of the attributes right here are editable, or the whole layout can be customized as per your requirement. And this is going to be useful, especially when you're dealing with the Office 365 component of the product. You can have that set up as well, and the Google Apps set up as well and modified. All right. So that's a quick overview on what a modification template looks like, or what can be done with a modification template. So modification templates are not very different from that of the creation templates. The logic behind both of them is same. It's just that the time when you apply these templates is going to be different. So when it comes to a complex modification, or when it comes to a request from the HR to modify, say, 10 users with different cases at the same time, how would you go about doing that? Would you want to modify one user at a time and go forward modifying one after the other? You can always create a simple modification rule, all right, into this specific template and get going with the modification process. So we call it the modification rules. Just like how we had creation rules yesterday, we've got modification rules for the modification template. So in fact, as a matter of fact, it's a lot more sensible to have modification rules configured as per your requirement, because you can have a condition set and a value, a corresponding value assigned. What am I talking about right here? I'll show you. So modification rules in the modification template, I'm creating a new rule and adding conditions to the template that I'm creating. So based on the condition that's satisfied, I can have corresponding values assigned. So let's say I have a condition for the department right here. All right. So the department is going to be sales. That is my condition that has to be met. So anytime when the department attribute is changed for a user and when this template is applied, the condition is going to be met, and I can have other attributes assigned as per my requirement. So here I'm saying the member of or assigning the group memberships. I can add groups, whichever ones I want. This could act more like a trigger. So whenever this condition of department is met, I want this, and this group to be automatically assigned. I can say okay. I can say okay again. So I can add this as a rule. So when the department is sales or when the condition is sales, the attributes for the group membership has to be set like this. I can also assign more such attributes. Say for example, I'd want to have my sales department users to be a part of a specific group. I can do that. That's already done. I want them to be a part of a specific container or an organization unit. Is that going to be possible? Yes, again, that's going to be possible. I can say a specific container, say for example here users, and say okay, and add that as well. So what are we trying to understand right here? So the logic that I want you to understand right here is the permutations and combinations for creating modification rules are unlimited. You can create your very own rule. So you can have a rule for a specific title. This is another case. All right, let me quickly save the old one and create another rule and show you what I'm talking about right here. All right, I'm going to go ahead and add a new rule. The first rule is saved and I'm saving it as the department rule. All right, I can create another rule right here for a condition of the title. So for the same sales template, I can have multiple titles assigned. So if it's a sales engineer who's going to be assigned or who's going to be modified to the new role that the user is getting promoted to is the sales engineer, if that's the case, I can have specific group membership, I can have the home folders mode, or completely up to me. Any of these attributes that are listed right here, I can choose any one of them and have them correspondingly assigned. Say for example, sales engineers are going to be a part of a specific geography. If that's the case, I can have that assigned. All of these attributes can be set as trigger values when a condition is met. So it doesn't stop right here. You can use one common modification template and create multiple rules for the same category. So last time it was for the sales department. So this time I can go on and create one for the marketing department. All right. After I do that, I can again assign corresponding values to the marketing department as trigger. So once that's met, the group membership is going to be different this time. So when I go on and have my modification done through this single template, for multiple cases, I'm going to have the modification performed simultaneously. So that is not just going to save me a lot of time, but is also at the same time going to ensure that nothing possibly goes wrong, because all of this is templated, the layout is straightforward, I know what attribute is for what, and it's all predefined and in place for me to just pick and use. So now if you're wondering as to how to exactly use these templates, it's a lot more easy than the process of creation. So when I get into AD management, I have the provision to modify a single user. I can select any of those users and quickly modify them by just applying the corresponding template. So here I'm going to pick the first user right here. So Shri is the user. So the product quickly fetches all those templates that are available. So here I'm able to see the list of templates that are there. So for modification, I can say whichever template that I want and select and apply. All that I have to do is just select the corresponding template and apply, and all those values for that user are going to get modified. So one quick moment. AD management, user modification templates. So the list of available templates, for that you will need templates to be saved. Yes, so a new template, just a quick recap on what we were talking so far, creating your very own templates for user modification. So we were talking about a sales template, and I'd want the description to say sales department, right? Just quick recap. Sales department, I'd want the container to be a specific. I can do that from the accounts tab. I can go on and specify values for the department, and the contact member of can also be specified, so the membership can be altered right here. Can add groups, certain basic groups. Based on my requirement, I'm going to pick a few random groups and say okay. This is just my test environment, so that's perfectly fine. So from the contacts tab, I'm going to say department again, so title as well can be selected. So I'm going to say sales engineer. From the department, I'm going to say sales, right? And a few more attributes. If you want, you can always go on and customize, but this time I'm just going with the basic ones, and I'm going ahead and hitting save. Alright, so this way what you can do is you can start creating multiple templates for your different use cases. So here the one that I created was for the sales department. The next one that I'd want to probably create could be for the marketing department. I can go on and not just restrict myself with creating templates for such cases. I can also have templates created for specific roles. If I'd want roles, I'd want corresponding group memberships to be assigned, just in case if there's a user getting promoted from mid-level management to a top-level management. I can have a template that says top-level executive, all right, and have the group membership to be assigned to all those critical groups. So I can select the corresponding top-level group. So let me go on and quickly pick those important groups. So I'm saying certain critical groups right here. So I'm looking up for top groups right here. So I'm saying domain admins, all right. Few more administrative level groups. Looking up for more admin groups. So I have one more right there, and this as well, and this as well. So what am I trying to do right here? When there's a need for a user to be moved to a top level department, to a role that demands access to all those critical groups, instead of me manually doing it through my Active Directory users and computers console, which could not be the safest way of doing it, because I could probably assign something excessive or have something left out or assign it to the wrong user. So all those can never be afforded to happen. So in that case, you can have a template, you can pre-specify values to that specific template and say okay, and only these values that are going to be a part of the template are going to get applied to that user when the user is modified. And just in case if you're wondering if there's a possibility to overwrite the existing values and just have the new membership applied. So when there's a department change, you'd not want the old group membership to apply. So at that instance, you can always say clear the existing group membership right here and apply the new groups to be added. So for that to happen, there's got to be a primary group that's supposed to be defined. I'm saying the domain user to be my primary group in this case, right? Looking up for domain users. There you go. I'm saying domain users, saying okay, and I'm going to make it my primary group. Right, I'm setting that as my primary group and I'm saying okay. So what's going to happen when I apply this template to an existing user? The group membership is automatically going to get modified to this, the ones that are listed right here, and the existing group membership is going to be cleared off. So that way I ensure that the user has just access whatever or just enough access to those required groups. All right, saving that template as well. So a quick recap on what we did so far. We created modification templates for our requirements. So modification templates can be for specific departments or can be for a specific role. When it comes to department level attributes, all of them are filled out. When it comes to role, especially the ones that are dealing with the security bit of things, which is permissions and all, can be configured through this template right here. All right, so for the actual modification to happen, you will have to get into AD management, select modify single user, all right, So select the required user. Okay, and pick from the templates that are available. So I can do a modification to the role, I can do modification to the department. I've got the choice right here. So when I say sales department and when I say okay, I'd be able to see that the user objects values are altered correspondingly. So here now it says sales department. Before it was not sales department. So likewise, when I get into the account tab, I'll be able to see that the department got changed. The membership got altered based on the template modification template that I had. So here we're able to see that it got changed. Let me get into the contacts tab to give you more clarity. So here it says sales department and the title says sales engineer. And how was this possible? All I had to do was get into the object and pick the right template. All right. So for the same case, all right, for the same case that we've been talking about here, let me quickly show you the existing group membership. Okay. So when I say the top executive template or choose the top executive template here and say okay, you'll be able to see the change in action. So getting back to the account to check if the group membership has been modified, and there you go. So all those groups which were a part of that specific template have gotten listed right here, and the old groups have been removed. So this way I can make sure that the group membership is done and it's done rightly bang on. Okay, just in case if you're wondering if there's a provision to remove individual group memberships without clearing all of them, yes, again, that's going to be possible. For that, you'll have to do a CSV import into the file, into this specific user object. We've got the group names that can be imported right here. So this is more like a unique scenario, not the same in all organizations. You can very well specify those select groups because this is completely editable. You can always come into this template, apply that, and then add or remove groups as well. So the best part is, answering your question again, you can go on and modify any of those attributes at any level before you actually apply. And as a matter of fact, just for clarity's sake, all right, the product also gives you a quick cross check. All right, now that I've almost about to update this user's account, I can always do a preview and check for all those attributes that are being modified. So here the membership is getting modified from domain users to more such groups. So the critical group, since I had selected the top level executive template, all these groups are added additionally. So based on what changes or what values that I apply to a template, and I apply that template on a specific option, I'd have a preview and I can always update the user. All right, so it's just a one-step thing. Select the right attributes and have them keyed into the template as per your requirement. Select the template and have that applied on that object, and like magic, the object values get altered. So the advantage again right here, the one that I'd want to stress again right here, is streamlining that you're getting to do. Is the what do you say, you have an error free system right here. So everything is pre-specified and nothing could go wrong, and all of this can be audited as well, and you can have reports generated for all those recently modified users emailed straight to you. So the use cases for this modification does not stop right here. It's just not group membership modification or having objects streamlined. There is a lot more. Let me quickly open up templates one more time and give you an interesting use case right here. For the question regarding modifying the group membership, I hope I've answered that question, Brian. All right, so we are again looking at a few more cases that can be performed through the group membership modification and the user modification templates here. So I'm going to go ahead and enable drag and drop. All right, so for those instances where yesterday we were talking about streamlining user onboarding process with the logon names, is there a possibility to have a common format for the logon names? Yes, we figured out that the user creation templates helped us yesterday. So what if you want to do the same to the existing users in your organization? So you already have 1,000 users and you've installed ADManager Plus right now. Can you do a retrospective modification? Yes, you can always do that. You can quickly go on to the logon names, say edit, specify the logon name format from the list available, save this into a template, a new template. All right, so you can specify this and say logon name standardization or something like that. Logon name standardization. Did I get that right? Standardization, and save this as a new template. So this way you can go attribute level and have those attributes applied to employees in your organization. So what if you want to make a non-mandatory attribute mandatory and have that applied to all of the users in your organization? So you want this attribute to be made mandatory and you want that to be modified. Yes, you can quickly go into the templates, say mandatory, say okay, you don't need to extend your schema, you can save this as a template and apply it to all users, and that way they have to mandatorily get that attribute you or that's got a red asterisk right next to it. So that's another useful scenario right here. So any point in time you want to update a specific attribute to bulk of users in your organization, or say for example you want to flush out an attribute for bulk of users in your organization, you can make use of templates right here and have that done. All right, so when we're talking about bulk modification, you will have to get into AD management. Just like how we created bulk users yesterday, you can say modify users in bulk, do a CSV import for your requirement. Just for your reference, if you're wondering how to create a CSV file, we've got a sample CSV file. You can select that and make use of the sample CSV file. You'll be able to see the LDAP headers right on top. Right, so you have the basic LDAP headers right here. So the name, the given name, the SAM account name many a time serves to be the most useful attribute when it comes to user modification. All right, so the SAM account name is all you'd be needing if you want to do a modification. So I was talking about the case of flushing out attributes in Active Directory. So I'd want to flush out the description attribute for all the users in my organization. So is that going to be possible? Yes, that's going to be possible. What I have to do is I have to just say SAM account name, which is the unique identifier, name of the user. Okay, it's going to be Jim Jake, and leave the description empty and go on extending the list. So this way, I'm prompting the product to do a bulk modification for this attribute, which is the SAM account name. And since the description is going to be left empty, the corresponding value is going to be overwritten or flushed with an empty hash right here. So that's the benefit of this modification template. It not only helps you modify to new values, but also it helps you to flush values for a specific attribute in one single go. So that is another interesting use case. So when it comes to bulk modification, you already know you just have to hit import, have the corresponding CSV file imported, a CSV file like the one that I showed you with the LDAP headers. The SAM account name is going to be your unique identifier that you'll have to have in all CSV files, and the modifications that you're doing. So it's going to be a description, or you're wondering how to modify other LDAP headers, you can look into the CSV headers that we've got, a reference list that's right here, and do a modification, a bulk modification. All right, so you'd want to set the forward to a specific email address, to say for example 10 users who are out of office, and it gets forwarded to a specific common email address, the alternate recipient LDAP header. If that's the case, you can have that configured. Say description, you want that to be empty, so you can leave that empty, or the alternate recipient is going to be myself, so I'm going to say j@manageengine.com. I can do that. So that way I can have bulk users modified in one single go, and as a matter of fact also go granular and still change values. Say if it's going to be Andrew, it's going to be Kramer, to who I'd want the email to be forwarded. So any attribute as per your requirement from the entire list can be simply mapped into this CSV file. If writing a CSV file seems to be a tough task, you can always pop up your Excel, have the corresponding headers named, and have a list that you've exported from the reports that we have in the product, which is the just a quick moment right here, which is the reports module. So for a specific requirement and for a specific modification, if you'd want to act on an existing list of users that you have, all right. So if you'd want modifications for all the users in your organization, you can quickly run an all users report and generate a CSV file. And this time, for convenience, you can generate a CSVDE file that has the right LDAP header as well. All right, so quick moment as it's loading. All right, so what I'm doing is I can generate a report right here. So I have all the users in my organization. So all users is my case. I can say export and export it as a CSVDE file. So this is going to also have the LDAP headers. So this are the LDAP headers that are going to come or become a part of the CSV file that's exported. So I can choose to modify it as per my requirement. If I want to do a bulk modification for a specific attribute, all right, a specific attribute, let me quickly tell you which attribute. Say for example, the attribute is the job title. Brian again asks me if he can do a dynamic modification. If the job title is the description or the attribute that I want to change, I can quickly select the corresponding attribute from the list, and then I can go on. I can say title. I can move that right here. So this is going to give me a list of all those attributes, the existing titles right here. So likewise, it could be any attribute that can be selected and put into the CSV file that you'd want to export, and you can work on this CSV file and alter them. So there are instances when you'd want certain attributes to be dynamically configured or dynamically picked. Is that going to be possible? Yes. Say for example, you'd want to have a specific SMTP address. You can quickly make use of the standard naming format that we have. So if you want a combination of the first name and the last name to be your SMTP address, I can very well do that. I can do such a modification. So all I need is the right LDAP header in that case, so which is going to be proxy address. So that's the LDAP header for SMTP addresses. And then for the same user, all right, instead of me keying in manually for one user after the other, I can use a standard naming convention that I have at my disposal. So that's going to be SMTP colon the ID, which is the first name, which can be represented by this format right here. I'm going to show you, right? So it's going to be the given name, which is the first name, followed by the say for example a dot, and then the last name and the corresponding organization name. So this simplifies the whole process for me. So I need not manually create an entire list for an SMTP updation. Instead, I can very well go on and use the standard nomenclature that I have. So a lot more can be done with the standard LDAP headers. You can have them imported from your existing Active Directory and configured as values to your your specific field, in this case SMTP address. So all this long SMTP address was in a different format. It was just the first name. So now I want it to be the first name dot last name. I can have that modified. So that is one interesting use case. So modifying users in bulk is going to be a lot more simple when you want to have them exported from corresponding reports in your case. So if you'd want to bulk modify a specific password related attribute, is that possible? Yes, again, it's going to be possible. So recently, users whose passwords are going to expire, you can say or make an export of all those users. You can make corresponding modification templates for password attributes, change password in bulk for users. So all of that is going to be possible. So any instance or any modification in bulk, be it a group modification that you'd want to do, export the users in a specific group and move all of them to a new group. You can do that. You can export the group members report and have them modified through the AD management module by creating a new template for a specific group modification and modify the users by a CSV import. So that's what I'm trying to tell you right here. Any modification, be it single or bulk, you can have templates configured and modified. So that's about the first phase which we discussed yesterday after creation. Now it's modification that we've been talking so far, and the next most important phase will be deprovisioning or having accounts removed from my environment. So this, in fact, in many organizations is not a single step process. deprovisioning is actually a lot more complex than onboarding. Why do I say that? Because when users come into the organization, it's just a few applications that have to be provisioned. But then during the course of business, yes, the user is going to get access to a lot more number of applications. So it's not just going to be Office 365 or Google Apps. Many other applications are going to get added and mapped to this Active Directory account. In such instances, you'd want to do a stepwise approach, or you'd better have a checklist of things to do. All right. So AD Manager from the AD Management module under User Management lets you do all steps one after the other. All right. I'm going to walk you through all those steps. I've taken a case where I'd want to start off by removing the group membership for all those terminated accounts. This is more like a security best practice that organizations follow. So making sure that they're removed from all those security groups is of high priority. So can I do that? Yes, I can do that. I can say group attributes. I can say clear group membership. I can select all those critical accounts, something like an administrative account. So I can say if the user is a part of all these groups, have that removed. Or even further, if I'd want to be still more stringent, I can say clear all group membership. That way, when I import those users into this list, their group memberships are going to be completely wiped off in one single go. All right. So here, when I'm trying to modify, I can select the required groups or do a complete clear by selecting this option right here and doing a simple CSV import. So that way I'm done with the first step of the process, which is modifying the user's group membership or removing the user's group membership. The next step that I'd want to do is have their accounts disabled. So that's what organizations do. Say for example, after a span of 10 or 15 days, after you've evaluated if the user has to be completely terminated, you can go on and disable the user from this option that's here. So say enable or disable. Choose to disable the account, and you can also set the expiry at the same time. You can say after a specific span of time, so you can disable the users from a CSV import again. So for all these deprovisioning related tasks, you'd want to do a CSV import. So that is more like a straightforward approach where you have a list of users and you performing tasks one after the other. All right. And then the next task that you'd want to do on these users is to delete the user accounts. All right, the last step for the process will be to delete the user accounts, which again is available. So I can say delete users, select a CSV file with the list of users, import them and have them deleted off my system. So this is a multi-step deprovisioning that we're talking about. Removing the group memberships for a security reason. If I want them to be moved to a specific OU or quarantine that users, I can also do by the move users option that I have right here, and then disable them and delete them. So all this can be manually done one step after the other, just in case if you find this to be a tedious task, just in case you'd want it to be automated. Is that going to be possible? Is an automated cleanup possible? Yes, that's perfectly possible, and I'll be talking about that in the fifth day of the workshop series, where we'll have an automated cleanup setup just for you. All right, we'll show you that as well. So this is about deprovisioning. All right, so I've got a question right now about restoring an accidental deletion. Yes, that's the next one that I'm taking. So what if a user object is deleted accidentally? Is there a provision to restore it? Yes. When I'm deleting inactive users, I've deleted a list of a few live users accidentally. That could be one of my scenario. Or a rogue employee in my organization has breached the security and has deleted a few vital user accounts. But the problem in many cases is when this deletion happens, keeping track of those objects, or keeping track of those objects that are deleted at what time, is going to be a big challenge. You don't have a report that gives you as to which object got deleted. again. So that case, we've got a report that will give you the list of users who are deleted within a specific span of time. So that's going to be possible. So before that, I'm going to show you how to restore deleted users, a simple straightforward restoration. For this, there are certain prerequisites that you'd need. Yes, you've got it right here. So the default functional level for the domain has to be about 2008 R2 for 100% restoration to occur. So that's a mandatory limitation. It's not a limitation from the product end, it's a limitation from Microsoft. So you'd have to have 2008 R2 and above for this restoration to work. So what you can do is you can import the list of users who you already are aware have to be restored, or the second case that I was talking about, when there's a rogue attack happening, when you have no idea as to how many accounts got deleted, if that's the case, so you can always get to the AD reports module and have a report generated for recently deleted users. So I have a quick report right here that lists me all those users who were recently deleted. All right. So the provision right here lets me select a specific time span. I want to see all those users deleted in the last 30 days. And when I hit generate, I'm going to get a list. So in my case, I haven't deleted anybody, so I don't have corresponding data. I can also have custom ranges set. If it was between this specific span, I can do the custom range. Or if I know the very specific date when the attack happened and when the users got deleted, I can also go on and choose that specific date and run this report. And like you already know, right after I run the report, I can choose to export it as a CSV file and perform a task on it. All right, let me go on and check if I have deleted any users in the last, just for understanding, I'm saying okay, so the environment is clean and I haven't deleted anybody so far. So if you were to have deleted, you'd have the users list popping in right here, and you can very well export it and have it modified or restored. And how do we do a restoration? AD management, user management, and restore deleted users is what we'd want to do. So this is pretty much about the deprovisioning and restoration that follows after that. All right. So there are a few more topics that I'd want to discuss today from the exchange management point of view. All right, so let's take the case where we have an upgrade happening from, say, Exchange 2010 to 2016. If that's the case, how would you avoid PowerShell scripts to migrate mailboxes? That is not the way that you'd want to do. You'd want to find a simple option to Exchange mailbox migration, so you can migrate mailboxes just like that. So it's not just the user lifecycle management from an AD point that's covered, like the modification that we did through modification templates, or the deprovisioning that we did in a phased interval, or the restoration that we did, but also exchange related attributes can be managed from here. I want to do a migration. I can say migrate mailbox, select the corresponding server, the new target server and the target mailbox, and import the list of users who have to be modified, and like magic all of them are going to be moved. So the fundamental structure is the same. There's going to be one operation that you're doing and a input that you give, which is the list of users. All right. So that's on Exchange migration. When it comes to finding out inactive users in Office 365, the Office 365 module has been newly included. It's put in as a separate tab right now. From the management options that are available, you can assign licenses or revoke licenses from the product for Office 365 when it's configured. Configuring it is pretty simple, just one credential in the admin tab and you will be able to get that configured. So now I haven't configured it, but I'll be able to show you the list of options that are available. So you'll be able to have Office 365 user reports generated. When you have a list of inactive users in your environment, you can quickly run this report right here for inactive users and get going after having configured these basic Office 365 credentials, generate that report and quickly unassign licenses for that specific module. So we're talking about Office 365 management, generating reports for inactive users, and having those licenses deprovisioned or unassigned immediately. So here, Office 365 management can also be performed from this module, one right here and one under AD management. For convenience, we put together under Office 365 tab right there. You can remove licenses right away for the list that you have. Import the list of inactive users from the report that you generated and have the licenses removed. Yes, so that is pretty much about today's session on managing your Active Directory user objects, your Office 365 licenses, and Exchange mailbox migration. So we've been talking about group membership modification in the start. That's what we took up in the beginning. So we went on to create a modification template. The modification template had all those attributes pertaining to a department. We took the example of the sales department. We configured the sales department template to have the group membership set accordingly, the description say accordingly, the organization unit as well set accordingly. And we also saw that the templates can be not just for departments but for specific roles. We had a top executive template and we modified a user in one flick of a second. So we got that done. When it came to file servers being decommissioned, we saw how to move home folders in one simple go. It was just one action and we got that done. Deprovisioning again was an interesting topic that we discussed. So we can do manual deprovisioning one step after the other. Provisions are there for moving the users to a new group, a quarantine OU, or removing the group membership and then disabling them and finally deleting them. So for all of this, you need a CSV file to be imported. If you're planning to do one step at a time or one user at a time, you can always get to the same module, look up for a specific user through the search option that's available in any of these options. So let's say delete users. I want to look up and delete one specific user. Can I do that? I can definitely do that. I can look up for the user right here, look up for the name right here, say J, search for the user, and then delete that specific user. So it's not just bulk operation, you can also perform from the list right here and have that user deprovisioned. All right, we also saw how the point of a restoration works. So when the recycle bin function is enabled in your Active Directory and your domain function level is above 2008 R2, you can have that restoration done with one simple click. Say restoration and have the users imported from the file that you generated through the report right here. So you go to AD reports, you go to recently deleted user. Even if there's a rogue user messing up your environment, you have no clue as to who got deleted recently, you can say recently deleted users report, run that report and have users restored into their Active Directory with their corresponding attributes. 100% restore is possible. So that's on the front of restoration. We also saw a bit on the Exchange mailbox migration and Office 365 licenses, generating a report for Office 365 for all those inactive users in my organization. So I can do that right here. So Office 365 and say inactive users, and this is going to give me a complete list. If I'd want the licenses to be assigned, it's the management that I'm looking at. If I'd want a list of Office 365 licenses assigned to specific users, I can see it right here, and details I can generate it from this report right here. So today's session was more on, or more like an extension of yesterday's session. We had onboarding done yesterday, and today we saw how modification works on multiple levels. So tomorrow's session is going to be the most interesting and useful of them all, because we're going to be talking about reports, and reports, mind me, are actionable. So any of the actions or any of the reports that we generate, so even in today's case we were talking about recently deleted users. From the same report, when you generate that report, you can restore users then and there. That's exactly what I'm going to be talking in tomorrow's session. So we'll be talking about close to 10 different use cases for reports of the 200 plus reports that we have, and we'd be discussing as to how to perform management actions right after we generate a report from the very same reporting module. And one interesting topic we'll be discussing tomorrow is custom reports. You have a specific requirement, you want a specific list of AD attributes to be generated as a report, you can do custom reports. All right, and I'd be walking you through how to configure custom reports and create your very own scenario specific reports. So that will be tomorrow's agenda. So later next week we'll be talking about AD delegation, workflow, and automation. All right, so thank you once again for being such a wonderful audience. Thank you for shooting your questions. I'd be taking questions right now just in case you have any. Feel free to shoot out. If you have any other queries that have to be demonstrated in live, I can do that as well. And I'm available at the chat right now, and you can always reach out to me at this specific email ID, which is jay@the rate of gmail manageengine.com. So this is my email ID, jay@the rate of manageengine.com. All right. So if you'd want any specific topic to be discussed in the sessions to come, I've given you a heads up on what's coming through the week. Yes, you can specify that in the survey that's going to come up towards the end of the session. Once you're done, you can say those topics that you would want to be discussed, just giving you what all could be spoken about. We've got AD reports coming up, we've got Active Directory delegation coming up, where we'll see how to have IT technicians get access to AD tasks. We'll delegate specific roles to help these technicians, and we'll see how a non-invasive delegation works. And then we'll also be talking a bit on a workflow module, where we'll see how requests can be made by end users for a multi-level workflow, where it can be a request review approval system. So that again is in the pipeline for the sessions. Yes, and the last day is going to be all about automation, where we'll create critical automations for tasks like cleanup, where for tasks like Active Directory user onboarding. So all of that is going to be a part of the session agenda. You can write to me in the survey that's coming up in case you want any specific topic to be discussed, or you have a doubt on a specific topic and you think it would be useful for the crowd. You can always drop that comment on the survey. All right, thanks a lot. For those of you who want a recap on what happened yesterday, just in case you missed out, just drop me a message right now and I'll have the video recording sent over to you.